Russell takes Melbourne pole after Verstappen crash. George Russell took an imposing pole position as Mercedes dominated the first qualifying session of a new era of Formula One at the Australian Grand Prix. The Briton led teammate Kimi Antonelli by 0.363 seconds and was 0.785 seconds clear of Red Bull's Isaac Hadjar in third place. Max Verstappen crashed on his first lap to leave a degree of doubt as to the extent of Mercedes' superiority, but it was an impressive start to a new period of regulations by the former champions. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc was fourth fastest, with the McLarens of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris separating him from his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Briton Arvid Lindblad, 18, made an impressive start to his F1 career, but a final lap that did not live up the standards he had set until then in the weekend left him behind Racing Bull's teammate Liam Lawson in ninth place. All weekend we have been quite competitive. I was trying to not get too excited after yesterday because we didn't know if other teams had more in the pocket, but I kind of knew we're fast and I just needed to focus on my job, said Lindblad. It's really impressive to have two cars in Q3. I'm extremely happy and just can't wait for tomorrow. Aston Martin, who had been the story of the weekend for all the wrong reasons amid a litany of unreliability, eventually salvaged some respect with Fernando Alonso qualifying 17th. But there is a mountain to climb for the team, especially on the power unit side by partner Honda, before they can get to where they aspire to be. The sun hung low over Albert Park, painting the Melbourne skyline in warm gold as engines roared across the circuit. It was the first qualifying session of a new Formula One season, and anticipation rippled through the grandstands like electricity. Fans leaned forward in their seats, cameras ready, hearts pounding in rhythm with the high-pitched scream of the cars. For George Russell, it was more than just another qualifying session. It was a moment of possibility. Inside the Mercedes garage, engineers hovered around glowing monitors while mechanics adjusted the last details on Russell's silver machine. The car looked sharp and aggressive under the Australian sun, as if it knew what was at stake. Russell pulled on his gloves, lowered his visor, and took a deep breath. "Let's go for it," he said calmly over the radio. The track was fast but unforgiving. Albert Park's corners demanded precision, and even the smallest mistake could send a car into the barriers. As the session began, drivers streamed out of the pit lane one by one, chasing the perfect lap. Russell's first run was impressive. He carved through the corners smoothly, the Mercedes gripping the asphalt like a predator stalking its prey. Sector times flashed purple across the timing screens. But the drama of Formula One never waits long to arrive. Elsewhere on the track, reigning champion Max Verstappen was pushing hard in his Red Bull. Known for his fearless style, Verstappen attacked the first corner with aggressive braking. But something went wrong. The rear tires locked, the car slid across the gravel, and in a heartbeat the Red Bull slammed into the barrier. A cloud of dust and debris exploded into the air. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Red flag came the announcement. Verstappen climbed out of the car unharmed, but his qualifying session was over. The championship favorite would start near the back of the grid. In a sport where milliseconds determine victory, such a setback felt enormous. For Russell, however, the red flag changed everything. Back in the garage, the Mercedes team worked with quiet confidence. They knew their car had speed. Russell had already shown strong pace in practice, and now the opportunity was there to strike. When the session resumed, the tension inside the cockpit was almost tangible. "Last run," his engineer told him. "Everything on this lap." Russell accelerated out of the pit lane and onto the circuit. The tires warmed quickly, the engine humming with power as he approached the start line. Lap time. He attacked turn one with precision, gliding through the corner with barely a hint of correction. Through the sweeping curves of Albert Park, he pushed harder and harder, each sector faster than the last. The car felt alive beneath him, responding perfectly to every input. The grandstands blurred past in flashes of color. Purple sector. Purple sector again. Russell knew it was a special lap. Through the final corner, he planted the throttle and blasted onto the straight, crossing the line as the timing screen flickered. 1 minute and 18.518 seconds. For a moment there was silence in the Mercedes garage. Then cheers erupted. Russell had done it. Pole position. The lap was nearly 3/10 faster than his teammate Kimi Antonelli, sealing a dominant Mercedes front-row lockout. Russell's voice crackled over the radio, filled with excitement, but still controlled.
Yes.
That felt amazing. Around the circuit, fans applauded the performance. Some waved British flags. Others simply admired the skill of a driver who had just delivered one of the finest laps of the weekend. In the paddock, the story was clear. Mercedes had arrived in Melbourne with serious pace, and Russell had announced himself as a major contender for the season ahead. Later, standing beside his car, Russell looked out across the circuit where the drama had unfolded only minutes earlier. The crash, the tension, the final flying lap, it all felt like part of a single, unforgettable moment. "Today the car was incredible," he said with a smile. "We knew the potential was there, and everything came together." But the race was still to come. Somewhere behind the grid, Verstappen would be preparing for a fierce comeback. The Dutch champion had built his reputation on fighting from impossible positions, and the Melbourne crowd knew better than to count him out. Still, for one perfect afternoon, the spotlight belonged to George Russell. As the sun dipped lower and the engines finally fell silent, the scoreboard told the story of the day. Russell on pole, Mercedes on the front row, and a season that had already begun with drama. In Formula One, greatness is measured in fractions of a second.